Let's get started. Okay, what are we talking about today? All right. You guys ready? Briley and Linda, you ready back there? Yeah? Linda? Linda? We ready? All right. Let me just, okay. We're just talking about arrays. You guys might not have seen arrays last year, so you probably saw array lists. So we're going to be talking about this week and next week 2 ways of having lists of objects. So you saw last time in the demo, I had a whole array list of balls. The point of that is so that you don't have to give a variable name to every single ball, right? So you can have a whole list of things. So there are 2 ways we're going to be doing this. One is array, the other is an array list. The array actually is something that's part of the Java language. So let's take a look. Let's just declare an array first, and I'll show you what it looks like. Something like this. So what is this? So you can see that the difference in notation here is that I have this square brackets. That tells me that I have an array of these integers. But you can see there's still the type. So if this is an array of integers, you have to specify the type of the array. So you could have an array of integers, an array of floats, an array of strings, or other objects. Here, let's just print out some stuff about it. There's a variable or a function called length. Which is it? Yeah, that looks like a variable. So that's something that's different from strings. Right, you remember this string, to get the length of the string, it's a function, it's a length function. This is not a function. This is a variable that's part of the array. So the array is a special part of Java. It's another reference type. It's not exactly an object the same way other objects are, but it has this length property. Something else about arrays is once you create the array, you cannot change the size. So that length is not going to change.
You mean like numbers dot length?
What's that?
Like numbers dot length can't change size, or like?
Numbers dot length cannot change.
Okay. So if you add something to the brackets, it won't work.
The individual thing inside the array can change. So here, let me show you some things. So first of all, if we're going to be we can take things out of the array, so we can access our array by using this same square bracket notation. So the indexing is exactly the same as for strings. We start with 0, right? So the first spot is 0, the second spot is 1, right? Make sense? So what's numbers? The last one is going to be numbers 3, right? Okay. So there are a couple ways to iterate through the array. You can use a for loop like we've been doing before, or you can use what's called a for each loop, and I'll show you both of them. with a for loop. This is how you iterate through an array. So we want to go up to numbers.length, just like we did with the strings, only it's not a function, right? So maybe I should put a print statement up here. Here, let's do this. Let's print I, and we'll also print numbers I. So I'll print both of those. Make sense? Okay. So it's a lot like strings, right? The numbering is like strings. You can loop through it. Actually, let me show you kind of a shortcut way of iterating using a for each loop. So with a for each loop. And you might have seen this in with array lists. It's the same notation. And the way we do this is we say for each integer value in my list of numbers, then I can do something. Okay, so that's called a for each loop. You can see it's a little bit simpler because we're iterating only through the values. So we're not iterating through the indices, we're iterating only through the values. So this is what this is saying is that this is a temporary variable called value. And that's what we're using in here, right? Actually, here, let me make this one look a lot like that one. So I could have, I'm using numbers I as a separate thing over here. I could save that as a variable. So let me just do that here so I can show you.
The numbers I is a different variable than I.
Yes. Numbers I is the value.
It's inputting I.
So I is the index, value is the value. Here's the picture you should have in your head. Is this, you have this is your numbers array, your positions, your index is 0, 1, 2, or 3.
So position
But
and
the
index
actual-
are like the same thing.
The values here are 1, 1, 3, 5, 7.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I mean by index. Index into the string or the array.
Oh.
These are the values. Right. So the for each loop, what it does is it just iterates through the values. Yeah, Linda. Yes. So yeah. So what I'm showing you here is just like I'm declaring my value variable here. What's the scope of this variable? Well, it has to live between these braces, right? That's because I'm declaring it here. Its whole scope is inside the braces. So this is a shortcut for doing that. So if I'm using this for each loop, what it's doing is it's declaring a temporary variable, which means that its scope is just inside the braces. The same as if I did it myself up here. Oh, I can change things. I can change values too. Wait, let me show you that. Here, let's change one of these. can do like numbers 3 is equal to 8, let's say. Right, so I can access any of these things. But I can change them also. Any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay, let me show you what the actually let me just well, maybe we should go through that's going to go through a function like an example that something you're going to look through on you're going to have on your homework. Why don't I do a full unit test? Let's do that. Let's do an average. Okay, so what I mean is I'm going to have a function here. I'll start from the top. Let's say I want to take an average of a bunch of doubles. So let's say I have a double array of let's just call these values. Oh, those are going to be difficult here. Let's make these easier on us. Okay, so I have 3 values here. I'm going to have an average function. I want to test the average function. What should my average be on this?
4.5.
I hope not.
3. Average.
Yeah, average.
Divided by 3. Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
3.
I tried to make this easy on purpose. Here, let's do another one. Let's do 200, 400, 600, 800. A little bit harder. What should the average of that one be?
250.
No.
250.
By 2. I think by 2.
500 looks good.
Yeah,
Oh, it's 2,000.
I'm looking at
That was
the.
1,000.
Okay, you guys are doing math. I'm just looking at the symmetry of it. So the average is in the middle, right? Does that make sense? So the average. So if you have 200, 400, 600, and 800, you think about where they are on the number line. 500 is going to be right in the middle of all those. Or you can do the arithmetic. That works fine too. Okay, but these will be our 2 tests. What we want to have is a function called average that's going to take a list of doubles and it's going to return a double, right? So let's do our test. So for our test, we're going to be passing in our values and we're going to have our expected value. And let's see, so when we're running our test, we'll first get our result. We want to print all our values. So let's print all our values. Let's just do a quick, we'll do a for each loop. What's that?
This makes sense so you don't have to type it out for each value.
Yeah, so we want to type out each value. Because otherwise it won't print all the values. I'll show you that. Actually, here, why don't I show you that first? So normally, what you would do, we'd want to print the values, and then let's see our expected. Plus what? And our result, right? Let's just check this, and let's just give our average. Let's make it return 0, just so that we can compile. Okay, So you can see when I'm printing that out, it looks weird, right? Do you see what it's printing there under values? So that's a memory location, and that's because your array is a reference object, just like an object is. So that's not very helpful, right? We can see the expected values, but we don't have our actual values. So instead of printing out our values here, I was going to do a loop over here. Let's print out all the values. So let's take a look at that. Okay, there we go. Let's get rid of the ln. That's better. Okay, so I can have, you can see I'm printing out all the values on the same line. I have my expected value. Those are right. And my result's 0, but so my tests are failing, right? Actually, I should remember, okay, so I should tell myself whether I'm failing or not. I'm comparing doubles here. What do I have to do for comparing doubles?
Oh.
Okay, why is this a problem? Do you remember?
Oh, is this what happened to me?
So we had an issue with strings, right? Strings you couldn't do like this because you were comparing references, and so you need to use the dot equals function. Why can't I do that here? Yeah, Linda. They're not integers. Yeah, what's the problem with that? It might be off by a little bit, right? There's round off error. Anytime we're dealing with decimals, there's a possibility for round off error, which means we can't do exact comparisons like this, because we don't. I mean, it might be off by a little bit. So that's why we use our math.abs function. We check to see if the absolute value is less than some small number, something like this. So it's a fuzzy comparison. Okay, you can see we are failing our test still, right? Now I should do this. Okay, now we're going to get to the actual exercise of computing the function, the average function. What do we need to do? Now that we're finally here. We have this array of values coming in. How do we compute the average of it? Now we want to do what you were doing in your head, right? Add them all up and divide by the number of numbers, right? So how do we add them all up? What's that? Did you say dot sum? We need a loop, yeah. We need a loop. It could be a for loop or a for each loop. We need to go through all the values, right, and add them to some total, right? Okay, so this is going to be just like those exercises in Unit 4. We're going to have a result. We're going to set it to 0 to start. We're going to go through the loop. We're going to add all this stuff to our total there. We just need to divide by the length before we return, right? So our let's declare our total here. And we can use a for loop or for each loop. Let's do a for each loop. So for each value, let's call it x in values. We're going to add x to our total. Right? Easy enough? And then we'll return our total divided by the number of things in here.
Would you do slash for divided and not just like
What would you do?
the percent sign?
Oh, percent's not divide.
What is it then?
What is percent? Percent's the remainder.
Oh.
Yeah, this is the quotient.
I see. That's really helpful.
Yeah, this is quotient, percent's the remainder. Okay, this will work most of the time. When will this not work?
When it's odd, like when it.
When is this a problem? What's that? Well, it worked on these two cases. What's the case where this wouldn't work?
There's no number?
Oh yeah, where there's no numbers. Yeah, you could do that. Let's say we had an empty array. What should the value of our empty array be?
It's just 0 over 1 or 0 over 0.
I don't know what it should be. So we get to specify, right? We should give it an answer. Maybe we should make it what? Maybe like -1 or something. Because it's not 0, right? But what happens when we actually run it? Oh, look at that. It actually does. It actually returns it returns a special value called not a number. I was expecting it to give an error actually. That's actually interesting. I was fully expecting it to give an error. Okay, it actually just gave not a number. In which case, actually, how do we access that? We should be able to check. Okay, so we should be able to check that value. Hold on, let's take a quick look. Okay, so you can check for NaN. But can we actually write it? That's float.nan. Okay, so we can do, here we should do this. Actually, this probably won't work either. It probably always compares to false. Yeah, that's not going to work anyway. No, so it is actually supposed to be and not a number like this, but as part of the specification for the floating point, if it's not a number, it compares false to everything, including itself, including another not a number. So anyway, so something interesting on the edges of floating point arithmetic here. What I'd rather do probably is check that this is 0 and tell the user there's a problem if you gave me a 0 length array. Okay, but I think you get the idea. Any questions about arrays or for each loops?
Wait, so how do we get the average to work? Was it working?
Yeah, it's working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I got, so you can see there's the yippies on the first 2 tests.
Okay.
Right.
Well, maybe the screen might be lagging behind us.
Ooh, you are absolutely right. Why would that be? We're not even on Apple TV. Oh, no. No, I was just hiding the screen, I think. Oh, it is lagging. What the heck is that? Huh. Okay, I see. Okay. All right, but what I wanted was, okay, so you guys can see that. Where's that window? Oh, it's over there. No wonder. Okay, I understand what's happening. Here's the assignment. There's some reading about arrays. some coding bat exercises. That should be pretty easy for you by now. And then 1, 2, 3 problems to do. All very similar to Unit 4 stuff, using loops, but now we're using arrays. And I want you to start thinking about your project. So how many of you did finish the Unit 6, like getting stuff to work with processing? Have any of you done that? Okay, no one's finished with that. Okay, then once you finish that, then you can start thinking about your project. All right? Yes.
Do you mind looking? For some reason, our processing thing just is not working, and I'm very confused.
Sure. Yeah, I can troubleshoot anything you need now. Actually, let me get these demos up here on the website, and then I'll do that.